If you asked me to break down what a mutual fund was, and here I am a decade later, I am the avatar for Brown Girl Angels. I know that there's many exist.
That is fire. That is a fire emoji.
Funding and supporting South Asian women that didn't exist.
Like, what was Bhargavi's personal why?
I wanted to give back to a community that means so much to me, which is South Asian women. Listening to a series of podcasts that I recommend to anyone just wanting to explore angel investing. It's by coming out of a life event. I'm pretty open about talking about going through a 7-year divorce. As people, we just like to be seen, heard, and understood.
I think I needed to hear this. Hi, Bhargavi. Welcome to the Mental Balance podcast. Hello, everyone. We have a total powerhouse of a woman right here with us today. She is a solo founder, a solo mom. She is on an extraordinary journey of raising brown capital and making angel funds a thing among the South Asian community and beyond. And there's so much to her journey that we're going to cover in this podcast. So with that, hi Bhargavi, welcome to the show.
Hi Vidhi, thank you so much for giving me the space to talk about things that matter to me.
Sounds good. I think with that, probably the best place to kick off is you tell us more about Brown Girl Angels.
Yeah, I'd love to. So Brown Girl Angels at its core is something that came out of a need and a gap that I noticed when I started and made my foray into angel investing. So Brown Girl Angels at its core is about encouraging more South Asian women to angel invest and mobilize their capital, that is investable capital that they have, and put those funds towards incredible South Asian female founders running businesses that have the potential to scale, but for many reasons that we can talk about aren't receiving the attention or the funding that they deserve. So as part of that, Brown Girl Angels is also building a community of founders that are South Asian women that want to connect, that want to share knowledge, share resources. And rather than limiting that geographically, we're just doing it globally. In this day and age, that's the great thing.
Yeah. What brought you on to start this? Like, what was Bhargavi's personal why?
Well, coming out of a life event, I'm pretty open about talking about going through a 7-year divorce. And on the tail end of that, and I think this is something a lot of women who go through divorce relate to, a feeling of wanting to pay it forward, to almost create some kind of an equilibrium for going through that journey, or coming out of that journey rather. So for me, I wanted to give back to a community that means so much to me, which is South Asian women. I had that as an idea of wanting to pay it forward. I also had the good fortune of being exposed to the concept of angel investing, but didn't really know enough about it. And I would say the connecting point between the two was listening to a series of podcasts that I recommend to anyone just wanting to explore angel investing. And it's called Intro to Angel Investing. It's by one of the most prolific angel investors of our time, Naval Ravikant. And so it was kind of listening to his content, having this idea of wanting to pay it forward to South Asian women and connecting the dots when I chanced upon a company that really was building something that didn't exist for me growing up. And so that's where that came to be. Now, fast forward into making a personal angel investment and then creating Brown Girl Angels. Well, that was because I realized when I started to make these investments, where was my relatable kind of community that shared that same interest in funding and supporting South Asian women, and that didn't exist, especially in the angel investing space. It's thriving, it's alive and well when it comes to our South Asian male counterparts, but I didn't see something equivalent when it came to South Asian women. So what do we know? When there's a space and a reason to fill a gap, we go and we build it.
Yeah, no, amazing. That's what we need. Thank you for sharing your journey about the divorce piece. We'll definitely cover that later. But so, what are the biggest gaps right now that you see in terms of South Asian women's mindsets about angel investing or things that you've run into, which you've like, you could stand on a table at a restaurant and like convince them with a mic in your hand that please, please do this?
Yeah, I think with angel investing and the mindset shift, it's actually something that isn't specific just to angel investing, but it's talks to and it can be extrapolated to our community as a whole. And that is living in a scarcity mindset and creating an
Mm-hmm.
alternative to scarcity, which is abundance. I think an
Yeah.
abundance mindset can be translated across many things in the company you keep, in the way you support other women, in definitely your finances. And to me, angel investing is a nice bow and tie on all aspects of moving from scarcity to abundance, especially when it comes to funding South Asian women, because it moves from not only do I feel that I want to pay it forward and support South Asian women building businesses, but I want to do that by investing in their businesses and supporting it with money, with capital. There is a power to that because we, of course, live in a world where the action of putting money against thoughts and the money against concepts means so much. So, that to me, that mindset of scarcity to abundance, that is the shift that once you start to make that, things start to flow, whether it's a shift in maybe your risk profile, whether it's a shift in the idea of having and being invested in a company and the agency that comes with that. There's a snowball, there's a cascade effect to it. But I would say at its core, a community issue, and there's reasons for it. It's not like, oh, women, we're just, that's our mindset. There's reasons that we have been socialized to have
Mm-hmm.
a feeling of I'm chasing this and I don't want anybody else to chase it, or I'm going to keep this to myself. And there's many reasons, and there's many great thinkers and speakers on this topic, just broadly, even about women, not just South Asian women, but it can be something that we see as a prevalent narrative in immigrant communities. And so certainly in a community that I can speak to, which is South Asian women.
Yeah. In our community, have you run into like gender equality issues in terms of like investment that you've seen, like the power of being able to invested in South Asian women might be lesser than their male counterparts, or specific like community things that you've noticed that are very
Mm-hmm.
peculiar for South Asians?
Mm-hmm. So as I started to make my foray into angel investing, and you know, there was well, this is such a big world, there's so many companies, so many verticals, what's a lane to start in? And what, fancy words are in jargon is investment thesis. What's my investment thesis? And that's where
Mm-hmm.
really, when you're looking at making more than one investment, you start to say, well, what's my lane? um, and that can be from many different approaches. So to me, the natural extension coming off my first angel investment into Brown Girl Magazine, which is a company out of New York, founded by Trisha Sakuja. And coming off of that, the natural extension to me was like, well, what are some other South Asian female led companies? Maybe in different verticals. But given that my desire to do that came off of wanting to pay it forward, I
Mm-hmm.
started to look around and see, well, where is an avenue to find other South Asian female founders? What are they doing? What kind of businesses are they building? I was aware of beauty. What other verticals are they in? So as part of my own research, I started to just, look on the good old internets of like, what's a community I can access? What are some angel groups I can access? And from there, I started to realize, wait, there isn't a curated space for this. And so building that came to me as a natural extension, combined with the broader conversation that's happening in venture and angel investing, which is that women don't get
Mm-hmm.
equally funded as men do. And not just because we're women, we should get equally funded. Let me qualify that by saying women building companies of equivalent potential are not getting funded. So that is where there's a problem. It shouldn't matter that you're a woman and therefore you should get funded. And I think there's a lot of twists and turns that are made sometimes of things related to gender equality. There's an extrapolation made by people that, oh, you're basically saying you should get this job because you're a woman, or you should be funded because you're a woman, or you should be funded because you are XYZ racial background. No, the underlying sentiment that I sometimes kind of go, really? You needed me to actually explain this to you, that the obvious statement is that you obviously need to be good at whatever it is you're asking for. That's just assumed.
Yep.
And there's
Totally.
a perversion that happens where people have, and there's a conversations around like, well, no, that is happening. There are people who aren't as qualified who are getting it. And there's like, there's in each industry, there's conversations that can happen around it. But specific to angel investing, it is an alive and well concept that's understood by companies that I've invested in, where founders have said, exact same company in this vertical, if this was a male counterpart who had gone in and pitched this, they would have received the response to it would have been different.
Yeah.
And so that's where you go, okay, this isn't a issue of the viability of the companies that women from immigrant communities are building. There's something else at play. And let's just even call it an unfamiliarity, right? An unfamiliarity from those investing who feel like you don't look familiar to me. You don't fit my profile of who walks in the door. So you feel unfamiliar. You don't feel like a good, maybe that's what it is. We can simplify it to that. It's unfamiliar. So when it's unfamiliar, it's a volume play. We can equal the playing field by having more volume of women from all backgrounds being supported, invested, scaling companies, and investors seeing returns, to the point where there's a day that I say, I don't know, maybe brown girl angels won't be needed because we're all just getting funded equally. And it's race and gender isn't. It's almost like the way doctors talk, right? They're like, hey, our goal is to put ourselves out of business. It's like, hey, maybe there's a day we don't need brown girl angels from a investment point of view. Community, you always will, but from an investment point of view, maybe it might not be needed, because
Totally.
we're all being funded equally for what we do, not what we look
How we
like.
look. Yep. Yeah. That is the dream, but I feel like there's a long way to go for that. Like a long, long,
Yeah.
long way.
Yeah, there
And
is. And so we back into it by saying, let's get more of us funded. Let's get more of us out there. Let's get more of us building incredible companies, and companies that have societal value, companies that deliver returns to investors, where all of a sudden, and it's already there for those who are in this space, investing in women and investing in women from different backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, racial backgrounds. We're all drinking our own Kool-Aid to know that it's smart business to invest in women, but we just have to, amplify the message to those that don't know, which is why for me with Brown Girl Angels, the starting point is, well, let's start with women who relate to you and say, let's invest in each other. But eventually the bigger picture is, let's have people who don't traditionally invest in South Asian women invest. That's kind of where you want to go.
yeah,
Because this cannot be done in an exclusionary fashion.
totally. Yeah. I think I also took it as investments from brown females who don't typically invest, but convincing them to angel invest their money only for like their future and their portfolios. Basically, like any XYZ, say a doctor, like a brown doctor wants to invest, they're able to angel invest as well. Or is that something you already do at the moment?
Yes, of course. Yeah, because we are vertical agnostic.
Oh, nice. Okay.
One of the goals is to build a wide and deep array of knowledge and network, because it's not just about writing a check. It's about the network and the resources you can provide for women scaling and building companies, rather, The idea is to be across all kinds of industries. So yes, doctors, as they should, there are plenty of doctors who are now invest in doctor specific, like kind of healthcare specific angel groups and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea with Brown Girl Angels, and I say this often, is you can maybe start here, but from a deal flow point of view, definitely be involved in other angel groups, because there's a sharing of resources and there's a sharing of deal flow that comes through the door as a result of that. So yes, absolutely, there are doctors, lawyers, business owners, but I'm looking to expand that and increase the number, and it's a volume play. It's a volume play, and also, we're just getting started. So
Yeah, no, that's great.
yeah.
Okay, so to my understanding, it's like Brown Girl Angels has obviously a lot of typical angel investors who usually invest. And there are
Mhm.
others who are learning how to angel invest and maybe making their first or second angel investments
Yes.
with all sorts of background, all sorts of professions. And then the ultimate goal is to have non-brown people invest in brown
Yes.
founders.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
be and that goal isn't far off, because there's allies who have reached out, whether it's our South Asian male counterparts, or hey, my wife might be interested in something like this. I'm already in private equity, or I do this already, but I think this is a great space for my wife to learn about this. Those are
Mm-hmm.
conversations I've had. Or hey, my wife's kind of looking to get more involved in the finances of our household. Angel investing is a little kind of higher up the financial literacy ladder, and that's something I like to always reiterate. It's not where you would start if you're like, hey, I don't ever touch the finances of our household. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, the real joy is in seeing women who are like, I am the avatar. I created this out of a need for myself, very selfishly, but then saw the bigger picture of, if I'm not a trader from the financial ecosystem, and a decade ago didn't know, coming out of my, a decade ago, didn't coming out of like my marriage and, kind of being separated, I didn't know a decade ago, if you asked me to break down what a mutual fund was. And here I am a decade later, I am the avatar for Brown Girl
Mm-hmm.
Angels. I know
Fire.
that there's
Nice.
many exist.
That is fire. That is a fire emoji.
Is it emoji worthy?
Totally is. Nice. Okay. So I think the last thing for Brown Girl Angels, I think I wanted to understand is
Mhm.
how did you handle imposter syndrome when you jumped in?
Wow, why are we speaking about that in past tense? No, I'm just kidding. um,
Oh, if it exists today, I mean, yeah, please.
you know, this is a topic that's talked about a lot, and I love collecting all the different opinions, from Reshma Saujani's famous commencement speech about, imposter syndrome, to
Mhm.
it is existing and how do you move through it. I One of the ways, and this has been a journey, not something that I would say would be the same answer from my 20s or 30s, but one of the ways I deal with imposter syndrome is the way Arthi describes it. Arthi Sharma is an advisor, by the way, to Brown Girl Angels, and a prolific angel investor in Canada. And she just was saying it's a recognition of the fact that you're doing something new. So, step one, recognizing that you're feeling it and kind of breaking it down into bite sized pieces of, okay, this feels scary. This feels like I don't belong here. Uh, what the heck am I doing this for? All of those phrases that we all share in common, which is what
Mhm.
imposter syndrome manifests like. It's that negative talk track, and breaking it down into, well, why do I feel that? Oh, I feel that because I don't have this, don't have that, haven't done this, don't feel like I belong, don't, all of those reasons. Okay. But bucketing that into, what can I action on to start to chip away at it? And then, secondly, just telling myself, oh, yeah, it's because it's new that I'm saying that. And then, as a result of that, looking, and the kind of the next step for me that's been working for me as of late is looking back at where else and what else in my life have I done where I felt that way, and how do I feel about it now? Now, that might be a benefit of being close to 50, that I have some years to be able to look back, and maybe it's not something I can tell you
Mm-hmm.
my 20-year-old self maybe didn't have as many experiences to look back at. But
Yeah.
now I chip away at it with some pragmatism, and then remind myself of the things that you hear and that are really helpful, which is it's just a sign that you're doing something new. And so chip away at each piece that you're thinking about and break it down into bite-sized pieces. So that's an alive and well thing I feel right now, because as I was explaining to you, I don't come from the financial world. I
Mm-hmm.
am meeting day in and day out a lot of the women who are raising their hand initially, and now that we're seeing a more and more of a change in who's raising their hand to say I'm interested in learning more. But first, the women raising their hand are women who, this is old hat for them. This is a comfortable space because they're in finance. They're working at a hedge fund. They're working at one of the big consulting companies, or they're lawyers. These are people where this language is comfortable for them.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking to women like that, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm learning as I go on some pieces, because angel investing isn't this thing you just take a course and then you know what you're doing. There's a whole aspects of it that I'm learning. So I think part of it too with imposter syndrome and dealing with it that's worked for me is having a group of trusted supporters and friends that you can just talk that out with.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing we know, we're really great at helping others through their imposter syndrome than we are ourselves. So I
Yep.
would say that's what's been working as of late, at just an honesty around it, a chipping away at what is it I'm feeling, why is it I'm feeling that, reminding myself that I'm doing something new and entering a new space. So this is normal to feel that way, versus just allowing it to shut me down from doing something. And I think that's also the difference in how I approached it before. It would be the reason to stop. And there's someone, I wish I could give them credit, and I don't remember who said this, but this is the case of content, is that you chip away at imposter syndrome by just doing. End of sentence, full stop. You just do. You do it anyway. Because really, imposter syndrome is another form of fear. It's just a nice subset of fear,
Yeah.
but you do
So
it
you just
anyway.
wake up and you fight. You wake up and you fight.
Yeah. So you're like, I mean, yeah. And I would say I'm also pretty specific about the language I use with myself, right? It's okay, I'm doing something new. This is normal. Of course I'm going to feel like I don't belong, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Does that stick with you the entire day though, or are there moments where you're like,
No.
oh, yeah.
No, the ebb and flow is the thought comes up, you talk it out. The talk comes up, you talk it through. So it's like you're going through that. That's why, to me, whether anything that I talk about it from a continuum, because that's what life's been feeling like lately. I'm starting to see all the dots connect, the dots through
Mm,
the failures, connecting to why I'm now here. That if I didn't fail there, would I have ever discovered this? Like all the dots are starting to connect. So when you look back, you're like, okay, so I get it. I get why that had to happen now for this to happen. But in order to discover that, I think something that we're all struggling with is making the time to stop, to just look back, think, write, journal, whatever that form is, go for a walk and think without being distracted. Like part of, I think, what a lot of us are just dealing with is making intentional time and space to do that. And
mm-hmm.
so that's a practice I'm struggling with right now and working on, because when the plate gets filled with things to do, and I especially these days have been feeling it around running a home, being, uh, some semblance of a good mom, like, all, and then business and like meeting people and learning and like all of it, that if I don't take the time and remind myself that the tasks can wait, this is really important, go for a 20-minute walk, don't try and be like, I'm going on a 20-minute walk. I'm also going to be on the phone. And then I'm also, no, like go
Yep.
and if think about what's been coming up. And I think
Hmm.
that's a place we all struggle to find, at least a lot of people in my life. It's the finding the room for that time or making that room to do that a priority. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, something like imposter syndrome, the thoughts keep going. You're not addressing the thoughts. You're not breaking it down with some pragmatism and logic. So they keep compound interest, in your head. And then eventually the compound interest of those thoughts leads to inaction because they've now actually built enough to be able to stop you from doing something.
Yeah. No, I think with everything you were speaking, I saw the insane ability that you have of zooming out at the same time, keeping in context of like your humanity and how you are and how you're existing on the continuum, and then actually digging deeper further into your actual story and what's happening and how you're doing everything that you're doing. So I
Oh,
think that ability to go in and out is my point of struggle. And I know that point
yeah.
of struggle is also stemming with the fact of what you mentioned, right? Like the 20-minute walk has to be only you to be able to synthesize your thoughts as opposed
Yes.
to you trying to struggle or like, this is the content I'm watching or this is the meeting that I'm going to take or like, I'm going to avoid eating right now because I have too much to
Yes.
handle. So,
Yes.
yeah,
I think we're
yeah,
all, and the more hats we start to wear, and I mean, I feel like women and no people, not just women, we come out into this world already with hats, right? We already de facto son, brother, you know, whatever else we start to pile on. It reminds me of that George Clooney movie Up in the Air where he talks about like putting things into the backpack. um so we're all collecting that, but as women, I do think by choice, some not by choice, we keep adding and adding, that we're like, where's space in this backpack for me to reach out and pull out one aspect of what I'm doing and actually think about it.
yeah,
And I think the continuum piece also applies around, I might not do it today, but I might do it tomorrow. And that's okay, to not look at my every day has to be perfect, but overarching, whether that you look at them in 2 week blocks, whether you look at it in 1 week block, figure out what those blocks are and maybe looking at it that way. That's something, even when it comes to, and that was a tidbit I learned from watching a content creator in the fitness space talk about it. Um, I'm very good today at giving and attributing the right piece of content to the right person. Mark Carroll,
yeah. It also tells me
coach.
how much you watch. I feel like I need to have like, you need to make your following public. We need to know what all you follow.
Yeah, I the like it's I mean, that's a whole other diatribe I go on with my friends about people say Instagram's bad. No, Instagram is a medium. It's what you choose to do on Instagram that might be bad or good, which I don't believe in those binary concepts anyway. Again, speaking to the
Yeah.
idea of continuum, everything for me is life is not black and white, it's gray. There is no binary. Everything's on a continuum. Everything for me is about ebb and flow. That's just
Wow.
now discovering kind of even the way there's some common threads that I'm kind of discovering even in just talking this out about how I see things. And that helps. It helps from a way of approaching life as not this like static state.
Yeah, I
Nothing
think my
nothing static.
therapist has been pushing the concept of not black, not white, and gray for the
Yes.
past 4 years. And now with everything that you speak, I think that hopefully 20 years down the line for myself, I start noticing everything as gray and still not the
Yeah.
black and white box that I live in. So yeah, I'm
Oh,
looking up to that. Like that's the thought running in my head right
yeah.
now.
Don't wait as long as I did though. Oh my God. If you can practice that now, you're the better for it. Uh and that's, yeah, like that's something that I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit. Maybe I've actually practiced it that way all along and I don't realize it. I just think I have more content of my life to work with to be able to really kind of distill that concept. But yeah, maybe I've always looked at things that way.
Yeah, maybe a
Yeah.
question, I guess, for your
For
parents
my
or
or
your
for my 20-minute
friends.
walk.
Exactly, or that.
Yeah.
Okay. I lied. I think I have one more question about Brown Girl Angels. It's like,
Sure.
Is the portfolio or the women that you invest in public? Is that something that you can share out here? Or
Absolutely. Yeah, and I
yeah.
mean, from what you learn about being on this platform, LinkedIn, that I find to be such an interesting space. Interesting. Another catch-all word that I use. I learned using the word interesting as this catch-all when during my time as a movie publicist at 20th Century Fox, where reviewers would
Okay.
say, reviewers would walk out of these press screenings we'd have, and you kind of knew the movie was a dud. And I'm like, so what did you think of the movie? Because you can't ask too much. And they'd be like, interesting. And then they'd go into a movie that you know was up going to be on like some a campaign to win an Oscar. I'm like, what did you think of the movie? Interesting. I'm like, ah, oh, I love this word interesting. It could be anything.
Catch
So
all
much
for
so
everything.
catch all for everything. Oh my God, I would totally tangented. I don't even remember what your question was anymore. A
Oh shit.
sign of too many opinions, too many things. You were
Oh my
asking me
God.
something about
Yeah, even I forgot for a moment. I was like, holy shit, what was my question? But my
it was
question
about
was,
Brown
yeah,
Girl Angels.
is the portfolio public and is that
Yes.
like something that's displayed
Yeah.
anywhere? Yeah.
Yeah. As any proper angel investor should do, they should feel, especially when you're angel investing with a lens of impact and
Mm.
purpose, we want to share it with the world. So, because Brown Girl Angels reflects my approach to angel investing, which is to look at it with a global lens and what that looks like, especially now over time. I intend to see that, including India, where there is so much to dive into, so much to learn, and there's that
Oh
the
yeah.
angel ecosystem is thriving there. But as of right now, the companies I'm invested in are based out of Canada and the US. Brown Girl Angels, Brown Girl Magazine is the first angel investment I made.
Nice.
I really think, and Sephora apparently does too, the Ayurvedic beauty space is exploding from a small
Mm-hmm.
business, a mom at home creating Chandan Radha, like creating, Ayurvedic teas to the company that I'm invested in right now, Sahajan, which is an Ayurvedic wellness skincare brand. Ayurvedic beauty is to me a great space to be in as an investor. And so, and I say that the disclaimer there too is I'm not a beauty person. Like I'm not the person that gets excited about the Sephora sale. I don't know much about beauty. As my friend came the other day and grabbed it from my hand, she threw out my 20-year-old blush that I've been have sitting in my drawer. She was like, "That is unacceptable that you do that." So anyways, all this to say, Sahajan is one we're invested in. Avrani is another great brand. It's a US brand that Lily Singh is the spokesperson and investor as well. So we're invested in that. And by we, I mean there's investors within the collective invested in that brand. And that company, and Simran Kang, she's out of Vancouver. The company's called MyFo. This is a place that's a digitized platform to manage wealth and across
Mm.
all the different people you work with. Incredible. She just recently completed a 3.5M seed round, which
Oh wow.
is so exciting. Yeah. And she was just yesterday featured in Forbes as one of the ones to watch in wealth tech management. So, uh,
Yay for women.
yeah. Simran speaks quite openly about the challenges she's faced kind of raising in that space. And so that's just, again, it's an example of why Brown Girl Angels needs to exist, for being able to
Yeah.
support women like her who are just brilliant, building incredible companies. I am sure that I am forgetting a few. There's actually a fund. There's two funds that I'd love to tell you about as well. One is run by Melissa Allen. She's out of Canada, and she is the only Black woman in Canada that is the GP of a fund. So I'm invested in the fund, but that's
Nice.
personal. That's outside of Brown Girl Angels. I will say the important one too for me to mention that I'm an LP in, that's not an angel investment, but was truly one of the inspiration points along my continuum, is the
Mhm.
Nate Fund. And that's out of the Bay Area. I'm an LP in that
Yeah.
fund. it was seeing 99 South Asian women of all different corporate backgrounds, speaking of that like experience being wide and deep, to be a part of that and see that that fund has now made investments that have actually now materialized. Most recently, Rupa Health is an example of one that was invested in that's now
Yeah,
exited.
Tara.
Tara,
Yeah.
exactly, Tara Viswanathan. Um, that is the story. South Asian women investing in companies run by South Asian women that are seeing returns. That is literally one of the biggest inspiration points for me in a transfer of wealth and a transfer of knowledge, a transfer of network, and a transfer of resources from women who are either older or who have more experience in a certain area, who are supporting and funding other South Asian women in building their dreams and contributing to society in the companies they build. Ah,
Yeah.
ah, it's the
Awesome.
stuff of dreams. It's the stuff of dreams. So Natri,
Yeah.
being an LP in Natri has been a formative experience for me and continues to be. And so I'm really excited about that. But I am sure I'm forgetting a few angel investments that I will come to regret
Oh,
later.
good.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Does Brown Girl Angels invest in healthcare? Just kidding.
yes, we do. You know that I'm looking at, you're asking a question that I've been talking to you about offline. Yes, all jokes aside, the reason it is important for us to be vertical agnostic is the message that that sends, that South Asian women are not just building companies that are only by women and for women. They are building companies across verticals. I literally just keep a list, not just for Brown Girl Angels, just because it's joy for me, of all the different verticals that we are in. I mean, and I can literally name them off because it's so exciting to see that. So being vertical agnostic from a messaging point of view is important. Now,
Yay.
operationally, what does that require? It requires, like you had asked me before, a deep experience across all kinds of industries and backgrounds as angel investors. That's really important so that we can support and fund these women, because end of day, there needs to be an understanding of certain industries to be able to invest in them. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea is, of course, we want to be investing in AI, healthcare, transportation, sports. There's an incredible founder who built open sponsorship for athletes. It's a platform for athletes to be Ishveen Jolly. She was funded by Serena Ventures. I mean,
Ooh.
we are doing amazing things. We just need to now shout it from the rooftops, and that's what encourages people to want to join something, because as people, we love joining momentum, and the momentum is there. It's just parsed out. So I see Brown Girl Angels as a conduit to sharing that momentum that is already existing in the ecosystem. My job is only to, I mean, it's an easy job. These
Oh,
founders are
no.
doing the hard work of building the companies. My job is to just say, hey, has anyone noticed? Like, we're doing great work. So how
Yeah.
privileged that I get to do that.
Yeah. I think your job is to stand on the chair and scream about it everywhere, globally, regionally, everywhere,
Yes,
about every
yes.
vertical, and keep a track of all of this and get people to invest. And yeah,
And not by myself, right? Because as I always say in conversations with women, especially as first time angels, it's not called Brown Girl Angel. I don't want to be a Brown Girl Angel. I want to be plural. I want to be plural in a big way. And what's the underlying piece too that we haven't talked about that we should is, we can only have this conversation because South Asian women are advancing financially. They are generating wealth. They are in a position, I really simply put, they are in a position to be able to angel invest, which is a higher risk, no guaranteed return type of asset class.
hmm
So that is an important thing to say. I mean, how are we having this conversation if there's no capital to invest? It's because they are. And that alone is something to be celebrated, because that wasn't the case. I mean, I'm not a history buff, but that wasn't the case. Let's go with not that long ago,
yeah,
right?
no,
We're in an
like
amazing
what you said,
time.
like scarcity mindset. I think we still have that, but Brown Girl Angels to me is like the exact opposite of scarcity mindset. It's like fighting that and then putting in your money in the riskiest thing possible, but being there to do that for your community and putting your money where your mouth is in some sense.
Are you available as a spokesperson as well? That was just perfect. I have nothing
Total.
left to say. I will exit this interview, exit stage left. I have nothing left to say.
I think the brilliant part is your entire conversation. There's so much passion around this entire topic. And like, because I'm a founder, I totally like you're on the other side of the table, I'm on this side of the table, and we both are like, yes, this
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
we need.
It's,
We are together.
it's the day I see, as with, I'm a founder too, in that sense, in that one of the things
Yep.
that founders talk about is, while we always have, okay, go to family and friends first to raise capital, to be able to bootstrap and, to be able to get your business to the next level. Every founder will say it is the hardest thing to do, is to go to people, because
Yeah.
there's this like, oh my God, it's their money. It's people I know. It's, there's so much attached to it. So in the same sense, I'm not going to my friends right now that are,
Mm.
I have a, wide network of South Asian women. I'm not going to them. I don't want to go to them. I want them to just see the work that is being done. And I want, for me, as with anything, and I think every founder relates to this, it's when people you don't know buy your product. It's when people who just are not, don't have any kind of a personal interest in you, the person, but have an interest in what you're building, product, service. There's something really great about that.
Yeah.
But to every friend watching, if you want to angel invest, you know where to find me. You have my phone number, you have my DM, you have my Snapchat, you
Go
have my
pitch, go
Ali.
pitch.
Yeah, you have all of it. I will not talk to you about it, but you know where to find me.
Nice. I love this. This is like a typical founder. It's like taking
Yeah,
every moment to pitch for it. Love it.
that's right.
Nice. Okay. I think we've covered a lot of brown girl angels. Let's
Mm-hmm.
put that identity aside and now let's focus on Bhargavi. So, who was Bhargavi as a child? And then what was the trajectory? What was her corporate ladder? What did she go through
Mm.
as a South Asian immigrant? My understanding is your parents moved here and then you were born in Canada.
No, actually, quite the opposite. It's the other way. So I was born in India.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Parents came, yeah, born in India, born in a town called Nellore, close to the Andhra Tamil Nadu border. Um, what came, it's kind of funny because sometimes I just make this up as I go along, because I'm actually not really clear about where I was between kind of like 0 and 4. And I'll tell you what I mean. My parents moved around a lot. And every time I
Yeah.
say that, my people are like, wow, your dad is an ambassador, a diplomat. I'm like, no, he was a guy apparently that liked to travel, which is why I like to travel. This is how this is, gets passed down apparently. So we came to Canada, for the proverbial better life. My mama sponsored our family. We were here. I did my like grade, I think till grade 1 or grade 2 here. And then my parents really wanted to infuse the traditional like dance music. And then I think my dad had some business interests as well, like wanting to start a business, I mean. So we moved back to India. So I did grade 3 and 4 there. And a little piece that maybe not a lot of people know, some do, is that I also spent a year in Oman, in a
Oh,
town
okay.
called Salalah, where for a whole grand total 1 year of my life, I was apparently fluent in Arabic in grade 5 or grade 6, and then went back to India, grade 7 and 8, and then came here in grade 9. So there was a lot of moving
Oh,
around that I think as a child, when you keep having to move into new spaces, I think that now looking back, that really helped shape my ability to feel comfortable walking into any room with unknown or any kind of people of any background, anything, and feel comfortable to just go up and have a conversation, because I kind of had to do that, because you know how it is when you're a kid having to make friends over and over, and then you
oh
miss your
yeah.
old friends. I see that
Yeah.
now with, I see it now with my son who's dealing with his really close friend moving away. And in some way it's like it's your first sense of loss. And to
Mm-hmm.
go through that repeatedly, I think really informed who some of the more positive attributes I see in myself today.
Yeah. Yeah. So you moved around a lot. And in the ninth
Hmm.
standard, I guess ninth grade, I still say
Hmm.
standard. But,
No, I love it. Say it. Yes. Ninth
ninth
standard
standard,
works for me.
yeah, like you moved to
Yeah.
Canada and then
And
you continued staying in Canada, living with your parents, and then went to
yeah,
college.
living with my parents and then went away to Waterloo, which is now world famous university. Went there for
Mm-hmm.
chemical engineering. Um, did not. It was a struggle. I it was not. It didn't come easy to me. I think in hindsight, I like any girl who's restricted, like very stripped upbringing, going to the movies at 9:30 was the equivalent of going to a rave, like going to Waterloo and all now all of this freedom. I don't think the freedom was channeled well. And so, it was a rocky
Mm-hmm.
road those years. Add to that a couple of co ops that I didn't really feel like I belonged. And something that I would say I would look back, obviously, life has played itself out the way it should and was always intended to. But I think something that would have helped in that time was understanding that a degree like engineering is just a foundational degree and not a commitment or a marriage to having to live and work in as an engineer for the rest of your life. Something that I don't think linearly, I just didn't have. I was so linear in my thinking that I didn't have that concept. Now I understand that you could have a base degree as a lawyer and engineer and now go become a musician or a physiotherapist. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. But back then I didn't
Yes.
have the mentorship to understand that. So I left that halfway because I just wasn't enjoying myself, and then went completely the other direction because I wanted to do something that I feel was more true to what my skill set is. And it was actually based on a book that my dad gave me called Wishcraft, where it just
Mm.
helped distill the idea of studying and doing things that are in better alignment to who you are and what you like doing. So I went into communications and PR, way off the other end at York, and
Wow.
uh, felt like I was wasting time, and I moved back home. That came with certain moving away to moving back home came with certain struggles. We're very
Mm-hmm.
saying it very nicely in case my mom sees this. Because I still, as close to 50, still worry about getting in trouble with my mom because I
Oh,
am South
yeah.
Asian after all. So we don't say anything bad. So then, yeah, and then finished that and then wanted to do something in the entertainment space because my mom would find the closest chapel at the time if I told her I wanted to be an actress. So I was like, okay, well, what's adjacent to doing that where it's still okay? And so that's how I kind of made my way into my first job as a movie publicist or a publicist at 20th Century Fox, a movie studio,
Ooh,
which,
okay.
yeah, which for years my parents were like, no, for the first few years, for the first 2 years, and I'll tell you what shifted, but the first 2 years they were like, yeah, Ma, what are we going to tell people you're doing? You're just working in the movies. What are you doing? And I was like, no, this is an actual job, Mom. Like, I'm helping promote. She's like, you're helping promote movies. Like, I think there was like, this doesn't sound respectable. This is not something we can tell people because at the time, and I think that's been a common thread at the time, there weren't a lot of South Asian women in entertainment, which
Mm-hmm.
when I think of momentum and inspiration points for what I'm building now, that as an example of what I was saying earlier around imposter syndrome, I would now look back at a time where it was just Monica Diol in Canada that was the representation of being South Asian in entertainment and in media and in journalism. Now, what a different time we live in. There's so many women, so many men, so just so much representation that we're seeing from top tier. And there's more work. Always, there's more to do. But that's an example of where over time you just keep showing up, you just keep applying, you just keep trying as a whole community, and shifts happen. And that for me is a like what I've seen, and that shift we've seen in entertainment and especially media and journalism is huge. That's a huge inspiration point for me um, uh, when I think of momentum. But yeah, at the time there wasn't many of me, so I just kind of stood out
Yeah.
in rooms. But that going through that was a formative experience as well. So
How did you fight that at work? So you said you were probably the only South Asian woman in the room. So how was that?
I think it's a Canadian thing, maybe, or maybe it's a me thing, or maybe it's a reflective of the time. One of these, and maybe all of them, where if there was a feeling of being different at the time, I didn't feel like it was something so negatively like, oh,
Mm.
I'm not welcome here. And maybe part of it was I just didn't want to see it because I was just having a good old time in this job and I loved what I was doing, that I just didn't want to see it. Now
Yeah.
looking back, now that we're like eyes more open, and now that there's been, you know, conversations in the industry about everything from, hey, women aren't paid the same as men for the same role, whatever those conversations have that have happened over time, I look back at it and I was like, oh, maybe I didn't get that promotion for that reason. But at the time, I was just joyful to be in a job that I loved, that I got to see again, the dots connecting, that I left engineering. It made sense. Here I am in a
Mm-hmm.
job that I want to do, that my parents still don't get, but that's okay. They started getting what it was when I gave them free movie tickets. They're like, "Ah, oh, we understand what you do." And then it was a lot of the free swag. It was like the free promotional items. My mom would like, I think my mom still has the Dr. Doolittle suitcase that I got her. Like she's
Oh,
still using it for trips to India. So like then they were like, okay, we understand this job. It's a good job.
it's
How
like
proud is
typical.
that? How
It's
proud is
typical
that?
South Asian parents. Oh my God.
They're like, oh, see, now I want to start saying it in Telugu because that naturally comes, but
Go
it's
for
my
it.
they're like, well, no, they were like, oh, అబ్బా నువ్వు చేసే ఉద్యోగం ఇప్పుడు నాకు అర్థమవుతున్నదమ్మా, నాకు కొంచెం కొంచెం అర్థమవుతున్నది, నువ్వు మిగతా movies art కోసం, like they were like, oh, for other people's art you support it. I'm like, and I give you guys free tickets, so yes. So but yeah,
Nice.
all that aside, coming out of that, moved into consumer marketing at Kraft, and then from there, strategic marketing at Rico. But it was really, I think, and this is where I really credit I really credit my ex-husband, Amr, to just exposing me to the world of building a business, from watching him build it from the ground up, and just seeing what it takes and the drive, and having an inside view to that, and how his approach was to it. I mean, that was, to me, looking back again, it was formative. And of course, just the concept of what venture capital was. I think at the time I didn't quite even then still truly understand the difference between, if you'd asked me, between venture and angel, I didn't quite understand the difference. But just the overall learning by osmosis, I definitely kind of credit him to that, because what he built was essentially the with Extreme Labs, it put Toronto on the map as Silicon Valley North. And so I do credit him a lot for that. And I say that to
Yeah.
him as well. So I'm not saying this is not an expose. Well, I don't know. Hopefully he knows that I do. So if not, I'll have to send this to interview to him to be like, see, thank you.
Nice. So then you did that, and then you got into angel investing, and now you're
Yeah.
founding Brown Girl Angels.
In between, lots of ebbs and flows, things that worked, things that didn't work. I started businesses that I loved, that were timed well, ill timed, things that I thought I'd, see, that were really, now looking back, really focused on revenue versus passion. You have
Mm,
to, this is the thing, like it's Instagram nicely packages things like failure is okay, and failure, you must learn from it. But let's also talk about the fact that it's ugly and messy and can be embarrassing, and it's sometimes extended over 3 years. And let's also talk about that, because it's not pretty in a package. Well, this was a failure. It's nice. No, I mean, I'm still cleaning up some of the messes of failures I've made, whether it's in real estate investments that have gone wrong, or whether it's in businesses that were ill timed. So I think part of it again is okay, what did you learn from that? And I can, in the time I've spent with myself and with the help of really great friends, I'm able to articulate, oh, this is why this wasn't a fit, and this is why this failed. But we have to spend the time to learn from it. Otherwise, the mess is for nothing. I mean, you got to do the cleanup.
But I think that's the beauty of failures. There's literally, as you're speaking, there's a board on my desk which says, make mistakes. So I think
I
I am at the
love
point in
that.
life, yeah, where I'm like, let's just make mistakes. Let's just have
Yes.
some failures and learn from them. And I think learning about your journey so far and the way you look back, it seems like you've had failures, but you've had so many lessons from them. And now you're like gathering all of those together and
Yes.
looking at it from one lens.
Yes. Yes. Which one might, and it's okay for this too, like the look back is cute. I mean, women talk about this in a way, I'll say it in a way that women relate to, which is like, oh, I got my new boyfriend. So I can look back and be like, oh, that was not good about him. All these things were not good about him. But women are like, I can only make those connection points when I have the new boyfriend. But that's not what needs to be the case. You can be between, relationships and still be able to take the time to say, okay, I'm able to see why this didn't work and what do I want for myself go forward. So yeah, so it's the same
Yeah.
thing with failure, right?
Yeah.
It's a form of
Totally.
failure, I guess. And the other
Yeah.
piece of it too is just kind of just starting to take out a lot of the oomph and the heaviness that women especially feel around failure. And that's another piece that's been a continuous kind of thread of my life of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, didn't work, next. Whether it's in my marriage, because that's something that there's a reason I talk openly about it. It's like, okay, didn't work out.
Yeah.
Let's
Let,
not wear it like it's a thing of shame. Let's not wear it like, and these are all things that have been socialized that we're undoing as women, all of us. And so, but a huge part of it is just talking about it openly.
yeah. Let's talk more about that. I think let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
the divorce piece. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's time.
It's time. Let's do it. I have 7 years of data to work from, so all good. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think you're very open with the divorce piece, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that takes a lot of guts for a South Asian woman to do that, considering how it just gets
Yeah,
looked upon in the community
yeah, I
back
guess so.
home. So
I guess I
yeah,
never saw it that way. People say that. I'm hearing you. I'm not wearing it. I will say that. And I think that's part of it. That's me. I'm like, I've never felt it required guts. I would say the part that's required, the proverbial pulling my big girl pants up is oh, I'm managing a household, finances, while co-parenting. Uh, that was all new, right? Talk about
yeah,
imposter syndrome, but not really finding the room to like have room to like ruminate and think about it. You just got to do. That was new, and with every stage of my son's life, I have only one kid, so everything is new. So it continues to be new. But I guess I part of it, not to correct you, but part of it is the shift in the words. It doesn't take guts. What's there
yeah.
to what's the guts for?
Yeah, I think
It's
I
part of
look
my
at it
journey.
from a mindset of my parents. Like my parents are still
Mm-hmm.
in India, my entire family is back in
Mm-hmm.
India.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a very happy marriage. So, mom, if you're watching
Mm-hmm.
this, don't worry. But like, if
She's
I
good.
had to go,
She's good, India. She's good.
like, if I had to like go and tell them that okay, I'm getting a divorce, I
Mm-hmm.
would feel so guilty and so worried
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
scared, and there'd be so much shame around the concept, which is why in my head, all of that is related to guts. But I think
Oh,
it's,
let's talk about that because there is something there that's really important to talk about, which is are you the doer of the divorce or are you the receiver of the divorce, right? So
mm-hmm,
I completely hear you. There is a huge stigma, let's just say woman, it's not, this is just woman generally, of the one to initiate. Because wait, how dare you want the audacity you have to want to leave something that is supposed to be the thing that women like live and strive to have in life? Like,
mm-hmm,
and then of course when you're South Asian, it's all things that come with that. that you don't leave, because a lot of our parents' generation, happy or sad, kicking or screaming, they stayed in it for society's reasons and then for their own beliefs. So that is that I 100% agree with you on. In my case, I was on the receiving end of it, the receiving
Mm-hmm.
end of, hey, let's part ways. So there is a piece, and this is where the nuance of everything is, like, life is not black and white, it's gray. The nuance of whether you are initiating it versus being on the other side of it comes into play. 100% agreed.
Mm-hmm.
There is a level of, I am going against the grain. I believe in my joy, worth, belief in my next chapter, whatever those reasons are that you're doing it, to do it enough to go against the grain, with people who will say, well, no, that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? Stick it out. I mean, I have friends whose families, their own families, stopped talking to them when they made that decision and did not support it. So 100%. I think for in my case, the reason I am able to wear it less is because that wasn't my decision, but I sure as heck made the best of it. So I hear
Yeah.
you. I stand corrected on that. I hear you on the guts.
I think I'm still trying to absorb the piece of the doer and the receiver. Like, how was
Mm-hmm.
it handling being the receiver for the 7 years? Because I think it all
Mm-hmm.
lasted for 7 years.
Yeah. And I say that sometimes I catch myself doing it for the shock value of it, because I mean, let's face it, Instagram apparently teaches us to talk in hooks now. So we have to have a hook. So there
Yeah.
you go. That's my hook. Uh
Right.
but anybody who's exposed to the legal system of any kind, not just family law, understands that 7 of the 7 years, likely half of it was, so are you available this date? Are they available this date? It's scheduling, man. Like with everything in life, it's like half of the time, months go by sometimes just for scheduling. And then add to the fact that, all jokes aside, like the court system's being bogged down, a lot of it is just hurry up and wait. So that's part of it. But over this period of time, and especially the other nuance, by the way, of divorce, and a really big one, is whether you're divorcing with children, or without. Those are two different experiences, because
Mm,
one keeps you connected for life, hopefully.
yeah.
Uh, the other, and I say hopefully because, again, within that, there's the, one parent who stepped away, is absentee, the other parent, like, all so many different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that is a very big difference, because, as many people I know say, a divorce without kids is, a breakup with an expensive breakup, right?
Yeah.
You get to go and kind of figure out where you want to start over and whatnot. But in
Yeah.
my case, I think being on the receiving end um, of having a young child under two, and going through that journey as a South Asian woman, I didn't know this. Now I understand what it represents, because I received that feedback, and I, have conversations with, oftentimes, many strangers that friends of friends connect me to have a conversation, depending on where they're at in their divorce and they're just maybe embarking on it. um, I realized that a big thing that came out of that was being someone who's a face of what it could look like for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Again, nuance, nuance, nuance. When you're able to go through that journey and come out financially sound, and not see a steep decline or difference in quality of life, those are all things that matter. And I'm not saying that to diminish my experience, but the reality is, for women, due to the family law system not being there to support and uplift women and moms through this process, a lot of women come out of it, torn, bruised, and battered across all aspects, emotionally, financially. So there are things that I think, going back to what you said, that for me was I don't mean trigger in a bad way, but like, it was like, oh no, it doesn't take guts, is an awareness, looking in the rear view mirror of, oh man, people can have it a lot worse, and they do. It's not like some kind of, I wonder if people have it worse. It's all around us. And so part of that also was that was part of the motivation to pay it forward. This acute awareness that there's so many women, life immeasurably changes, and the grind is day in and day out. So not to take a different turn on this, but
Yeah.
that's where I go, hold on. Yeah, I went through that. I came out for the better across everything. And yeah, of course, being in it, I'm not diminishing that journey. And it was tough. It was tough, tough, tough. And I'm open book about talking about that. But I'm able to now come out and have the capacity and bandwidth to be able to support and help other women, to be able to have tidbits and things that I'm able to share, able to also, walk away and then say I can start new chapters of my life, acutely aware that, and also not to deal with being the person who initiated it. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely some things that make me go, oh, how can I pay this forward? There's a desire to keep paying it forward and give back in some way.
So clearly, like a 7-year journey, crazy journey, came out of
Mm-hmm.
it to like help yourself in every way possible. I think I want to focus more on being the solo mom there,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah,
being a
I'm
mom, being a
solo
founder.
and co-parent. Like that's an important, again,
Yeah,
of all the
yep,
different
nuance.
flavors of divorce. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I solo but co-parent very um amicably, and we're, blended. But again, that's a
yeah.
journey. That wasn't an overnight thing.
How is it that you balance life today, being a co-parent, handling
Mm-hmm.
Adi, being a
Mm-hmm.
founder? Um,
Mm-hmm.
how does all of that, juggling all of that work at once?
Yeah. Juggle, I connect to. Balance, I think there's en masse women are being like, yeah, man, let's get rid of this word balance. It's not serving us. We keep trying to find this balance. We're not balancing. Let's just get rid of this damn word. So I'm out. Like, that word is, let's get done with that. Juggling,
For
yes.
you, I think we'll change the podcast name for this episode to the mental juggle instead of the mental balance.
I love it. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that that's in your
That's
name of your
good.
podcast. But
It's good. I think
you
this
asked
is
for
the,
honest, so
yeah, this is what I want.
good. I that was one thing what my friends will say about me. You'll never get anything but. So how do I manage it? I've come to a happy place that I hope stays. That I work through shifts and blocks of being 100% at some things, maybe 20% at others, and then maybe shift into another block of time where I'm able to maybe, adjust those ratios to be a little bit more even, and that I'm able to recognize that to just ease the guilt off myself, because that guilt thing is everyone's bestie, especially women. It's like, we're like, no, please join us for the entire ride of our lives. So the way to ease that a bit for myself is, like, right now, there was a
Yeah.
period I took a steep dive off a cliff of my daily walks, and it has been lots of meetings, lots of conversations, like 2025 planning, so much of that, sitting at my desk too much, and the wearing of the, and then maybe not way too many, more than usual orders of Uber Eats for dinner for Adi than I should. Like, all right. And it starts to build, and you're like, oh, and you start to feel it. And then it's the step back to be like, okay, so these next 2 weeks is lots of work. Can I take 20-minute walks and turn them into 5 minutes? Can I take Adi? Mummy's going through this kind of period of intense work. So we're going to dial up a bit of the Uber Eats, or DoorDash. Okay, just saying all the brands' names, so that they don't cancel me. Please keep sending me the coupons. Um, or and so it's like the constant dialogue with oneself when you catch yourself feeling that is my juggle. My juggle
Yeah.
is acknowledging talking it through and being like, I am happy that right now I did not meal prep this Sunday. But then other Sundays, I am the picture of the woman who is like, everything is ready in Tupperwares. Okay. And I think having all right, cool, this is what it is, that's really been helping over the past, I'd say this has been a shift of the past. It's post-pandemic for sure.
Yeah.
Like post-pandemic, we were all breaking down, right? Because we were at the max of the balance, like, and we were all breaking down because this balancing thing wasn't working. So this has been a post-pandemic B. I've been liking this life. This is a good life of like, okay, dishwasher still hasn't been emptied 3 days later. We're just using the dishwasher like a drawer.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so that's okay. Because you know what?
Totally.
Zoom is my new best friend. Zoom is like, hey, even for unlimited minutes, you're using unlimited too much. Like, it's like, okay, it is what it is. So I think my juggle is in acceptance, and acceptance of I cannot be 100 and firing on all cylinders on everything all at once. And definitely as a solo mom, when Adi's with me, this practice is super important. And I have friends right now going through it, and they're in the early stages of like the newness of being a solo mom, some with a parent involved, some without. And these are the conversations we have where I'm like, please, let me save you some time. Let me save you some years. Just get used to sometimes being like, okay, another pizza night. Cool. Because I had to do the laundry. I had to deal with the trades. When you own a home or when you have a space, right? It's like dealing with trades. The house isn't housing. Okay, so that's it. And so just acceptance, which I think again is an extrapolation for us as women, that we need to that is the true practice. It's just acceptance.
Okay. I think I needed to hear this. Honestly, this is what I was struggling with yesterday.
Was it
where
the
I think
dishwasher that got you? What was the part that got you?
I think the entire framework of how you mentioned it, like there's panic initially where you're like, oh, you can see things sliding away, too many orders outside, too many of these things happening, too much of like, okay, dishwasher needs to be emptied. This is day 3, day 6, day 7. What's happening? What's happening? That panic, and then getting into, okay, it's fine. Next week, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to chunk out my calendar. This is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to go on more walks. It's okay for this week. Let's let it slide and let's move on to the next thing. I think the acceptance is my space of struggle. Yeah.
And I think there's something that we all give ourselves and to each other when we're able to do that for ourselves, right? Because controversial. See, another hook. Controversial topic of the day is moms and women can be the most, moms especially, can be the most judgmental subset of society to each other. And I think a lot of it comes from our own inner dialogue of the striving for perfection, to be operating at 100% across every hat that has been handed to us. Some that we asked for, some that we did not, some about the feminist movement that lifted us up in one direction, but forgot the rest of it, which is in order to do all this, we need support down here. And there are incredible women doing work in this space that are acknowledging and talking about this so well that I do no justice to, but I sure as heck watch their content and learn from it, because it is so helpful en masse when I'm like, girl, I see your imperfection and I love it. And I'm owning my imperfection, and even in the sense of that word, I know that there's women who crumble at that idea. But if we're all able to give that grace to ourselves, I just think the way we treat other moms, other women, there's a cascade effect of how it shifts. And I just see that in my own friends. Say that again.
I'm going to ask them to put like emojis of fire, fire, fire. Like
fire, fire, fire. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, yep,
so
especially moms. I mean, I'm able to, like, I think that has been one of the silver linings of divorce. And that's something that I say to any woman I talk to that comes into my purview around just generally emotionally how to approach what this journey is. And it is aggressively, aggressively look for silver linings. You have to, because if you don't, it, and take that practice into everything else you do in your life. Because if you don't, it will constantly feel like you're up against something, which you actually are in the legal system. But don't translate that into everything else in your life. The legal system's doing a good job of that, of feeling like you're up against things. Don't bring it into, and that is something that is one of the biggest lessons of divorce. There's many others I have. Buy my ebook for $9.99. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have an ebook. I dole this out for free. No, I dole it out for free because I want to see, you know, yeah, I deeply connect to women going through divorce and separation, and those who are dealing with difficult divorces. And again, no two are the same, lots of flavors, but you know, I have a whole kind of thought stream around that too, about this concept of like the at leasting is what I call it, right? Like the at least he didn't do this. And I say he, I'm talking about heterosexual divorces. Okay, I'm trying to include everybody in the picture, but heterosexual divorces. Okay, I can speak to that.
Yeah.
So the kind of like the oh, at least he didn't do this to you. At least he didn't do that. Yes, I know I just said aggressively look for silver linings, but aggressively look for silver linings not with the bar set so low. Aggressively look for silver linings with the bar set for better, not best, because then you're back into the perfection jam again. Like just for slightly better. Oh, you know, at least I don't have to deal with this. So, okay, I'm a bit better off because I didn't have to deal with this. But when it comes to, I feel what we hear a lot of when it comes to men, it's the, oh, at least he didn't, you know, stomp, kick, dirt, throw dirt, you know, beat that. And it's like, wait, I'm supposed to be excited because he didn't know. What's this? At least the bar set so low. But then unfortunately, the bar is set so low because there are bad actors that engage in poor behavior on the way out. That the reason is that. But we as women need to set the bar higher and say, no, being mistreated generally in any way is not cool. I shouldn't be at leasting when it comes to that. And that's a whole separate thought stream that I'm just kind of giving you a little. I'll save that for another day.
No, I think you've covered in depth, and I also know you publicly talk about divorce a lot. So I think there's already a lot of content with you and divorce out there. I think I kind of want to close it out on a few, I think the last thing, which is like you seem to have taken therapy with all of these takeaways. Is that assumption right?
Yeah, I did. During the early stages, During the early stages, I kind of tried different modalities. Speaking of something that we haven't made time for recently, that very actively, I'm like, I need to make time for that, and I'm not doing it, is going in and seeing a therapist. I am raising my hand to say I have been behind on that. Okay, that's fine. Fortunately,
Come to Hunter.
I know, which I am excited to hear about, because I do think culturally relevant therapists is an important thing. That's not, you, whether it's Brown Girl Angels, whether it's Unther, what are we talking about as a underlying kind of thread? It is that as people, we just like to be seen, heard, and understood. We just like to feel like, hey, you get me. And that's, end of day, that's what this is. Everything that we're building to address is to address that. Is like, hey, you're relatable. I like supporting what's relatable. I like receiving what's relatable, but it doesn't mean it has to exist within a vacuum of not doing things that don't feel relatable. But when you are missing what feels relatable, it can really hit you at the core. When you feel sound in feeling seen, heard, and understood and related to, then you have the appetite and the enthusiasm to go and explore the unknown.
Yeah.
So they
No, I
coexist.
think that's the best
Speaking of the
way.
gray.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it down. Um, I feel like we almost covered everything. Do you think there's anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't?
I have nothing left to cover because I think you did a great job. You did a great job in delving into things that I don't sit here and just talk about to myself like every day. I talk to others in the way I'm talking to you, but I don't just sit here and like ponder what are through lines of my life. I have ideas in my head, but I don't kind of talk about it as much. So it's nice. It's nice to kind of to do that. So
Yay,
thank you for the time.
thank
Thank you
you.
for giving me the time and the space.
Wait, I'm not letting you go yet. I have some
Okay.
good
Oh,
rapid
you
fire
do?
questions
Okay.
for you. This is like the
Oh.
last round where we
Okay.
like turn up the energy and then we go easy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so we run this question by everyone. We spoke of Aarti, right? So we asked Aarti this question on the
Yes.
pod as well. What is the most auntie-like thing you've been told? Like, we
I've
have a
been
section where a segment which is like auntie, what does auntie say? Auntie kya kahenge? Which is in reference to log kya kahenge.
yeah, it's what's the I don't I don't do superlatives, meaning most, biggest. I don't do
Mm-hmm.
lists. So let me try and say one of. One of the things that Auntie has said, well, oh my gosh, I don't have why am I looking thinking this hard? I mean, in my divorce, like, I've heard things like, make sure that you don't be too single too long because people will think something's wrong with you, or you know wait till people find out in India because they will look at you differently. Don't tell people on social media that you're
Mm-hmm.
divorced because that's not gonna sit well. People will think something's wrong with you. I was like, no, it's okay. I think something's wrong with me already, so it's okay. Like, I can let everybody else know too. It's okay. Auntie, auntie,
Is
you
that
must
how
think
you
I don't think
respond to
something.
auntie? Is that how you
I
respond to
have,
auntie? Then that's
I
great.
have, I
What
have.
did the auntie say? Did the auntie was like, oh, I don't think I should ever talk to her again.
No. Because I always say it with humor, they laugh with me, but their laugh is very different from my laugh. My laugh is hearty, their laugh is awkward. I'm like, cello, we both are laughing. Different kinds of laughs, but it's okay.
I love that. No, that's good. I think using humor as a tool to give back the opinions and
It's
then hear the awkward laugh is the
yeah,
best.
yeah, it's the best.
That's great. Okay, I have some few quick ones. What is the
Yeah.
favorite Bollywood movie of all time for you?
Oh, one of my favorite movies is Thal.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't. Oh, canceling coming my way. She runs Brown Girl Angels, but she doesn't watch Bollywood movies.
That's all right.
I,
You said Tal. We'll
I,
leave it at that.
yeah. Woo.
Um, what is your guilty pleasure TV show?
I don't. I watch documentaries.
Okay,
I watch.
documentary is fine.
Yeah, I don't watch like TV shows. Oh wait, no. The newest, the most recent, only the most recent Hulu season of Kardashians. I've watched that.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
okay.
important to know what everyone's talking about. So yeah, I watched that. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
guilty. I was not guilty. There's no guilt. Hi, we're trying to go away from guilt. What do you mean guilty pleasure? Nothing is guilt. Did you hear anything I said? No guilt.
I've heard a lot about the Bollywood housewife. I haven't seen any season, so I don't know. But
Oh,
I just see a lot of reels about it. So just
oh
letting
wait,
you know.
I did watch no, I did watch a few episodes of that because there's a woman who Kalyani Sinha. Look at me remembering names and details today. She's divorced. And I think that's
Hmm.
so important. She's based in India and she's talking about it. Like, bravo to her. So I did
Nice.
catch a few episodes, but that was the most I could do.
Yeah, that's fair. I've only heard about it. I've still not managed to watch it
Get around
myself.
to it.
So, mm-mm. And one app you couldn't live without. Instagram?
As of late, Notion.
Ooh, yes, that's me. That's my answer.
Wow, like wow. They got it right. They continue to get it right.
Yeah.
As of late, I would say. But yeah, Instagram, you're right. I mean, Instagram. But
Is it
now
because
there's
you
like
write a lot? It's like all your brain power in Notion?
it's this idea of collating all the things from all the different places and being able to have this one dumping ground. But in an organized way where they're attached to each other. Organization. It's so great. Yeah,
Yes.
I love it. But
Yeah.
I will say it does take a bit of an uptake. Like it's not like you just get on there and you can figure out how to use it. So yeah. But Notion, we love you. Feel free to send me something free. I don't know what you're sending me that's free. Something.
Any of the team subscription per year would do. Like, yeah, I think we could pitch this to Notion and ask for that.
There you go.
Nice. Okay. I think I had the best time this morning
I'm
chatting
so glad.
with you.
Me too.